Welcome to 6th grade language. This is lesson 153. We're going to be looking at pages 237 and 238. There's also no homework for this lesson, okay? So we are going to be looking at writing with adverbs, okay? So writers learn that misplaced adverbs can give the wrong signal to the reader, okay? On the board, I have one that we used these, we call them misplaced modifiers in a previous lesson before we learned all of our parts of speech. And so when we look at this, you can have a phrase or a word that is in the wrong spot, and it either makes the sentence funny, or it makes it not make sense, or it's just not clear, okay? So this first one, the injured dog hobbled across the street with black spots, okay? I would like to know where the street is with black spots, because I think it's pretty significant if they use it in a sentence. In this case, what has the black spots? Okay, what has the black spots? The injured dog hobbled across the street with black spots. The dog, right? So you would want to move this phrase, and in this case, we could just move it straight up. I mean, of course, we'd have to move our words, but we could say the injured dog with black spots hobbled across the street. And then we would end our sentence with the period there instead of there, okay? So that's one way that's the best way to fix this one, because that's really the only place to move it. You generally put your phrase that describes a noun right after that noun, okay? In this one is just a little confusing. My uncle said on Friday he would visit. Well, did he say on Friday? Or that he would visit on Friday? Okay, so here's what we need to do. In this case, if we were to know where it goes, if maybe he was talking to you on a phone call on Friday, we would put it at the beginning of the sentence, and we would say on Friday, and we put a comma, my uncle said he would visit, okay? Or we could move it to the very end of the sentence, okay? Because this one actually describes the verb. It answers when, right? So a prepositional phrase that answers when, that describes the verb, either goes at the beginning of a sentence or the end of a sentence. Now, it could go anywhere in the sentence, but the best places are the beginning and end, especially if it's a time frame that it's talking about, so that you know what we're saying. Okay, so my uncle said he would visit on Friday. So that one would also give you the exact meaning of this sentence. So you want to just make sure that our meaning is clear when we have a sentence, okay? So place adverb phrases so that they clearly modify the word you intend. I opened the can with a silly grin. I think I would be a little scared of that can. It would be better to say, with a silly grin, I opened the can. Do not place an adverb phrase between two verbs that it might modify. He said on Monday he would take us skiing, okay? And also in this case, it's the same because it's between two verbs, because this is a phrase over here. It's that he would visit, would be the phrase that we haven't really learned yet. So, but you see there's a verb here and there's a verb here, would visit. And so does it describe said or does it describe would visit? And that's what it's saying here, is that it would be clearer to say on Monday he said he would take us skiing. He said it on Monday, or he said he would take us skiing on Monday. He would take us on Monday. So that gives you that clarity in your sentences, and especially in your writing. So if you are writing a story, you want to make sure that it is absolutely clear the meaning. You don't want your readers to be guessing, did they mean to say that he would take them on Monday, or that he had said it on Monday? So you just want to make sure that that's clear, okay? So in think A, what you're doing is you're moving phrases, okay? And there are a couple options for some of them, all right? So you can, it just has to be, you get to pick which one, okay? So if it goes into one of those spots, it'll be fine. So let's look at number one together. I saw the newsboy throwing papers through my front window. You don't want him throwing them through your front window. Believe me, then your window would be shattered, unless the window was open somehow. Anyway, you still don't really want him throwing them through the front window. So what would be the better place for this one? At the beginning of the sentence. Through my front window, I saw the newsboy throwing newspapers, okay? So circle the whole phrase, through my front window, and draw an arrow to the very beginning of the sentence and drop it there, okay? All right, so that's what you're gonna be doing with this, is to be just moving phrases where they need to go. Now, not every prepositional phrase in these sentences needs to be moved. Only the ones that make the sentence either sound really silly or that it is just not so clear, okay? And so keep that in mind. I'll let you finish those, and I'm gonna check those in the next lesson just to make sure you guys are getting those. Okay, so write B says write a sentence containing an adverb phrase. Make sure to place the phrase correctly. So use an adverb phrase, but make sure it describes the verb, and make sure that it's put in the right spot, okay? So you could think of one of these silly phrases at one of these sentences that makes it sound silly, and just make sure you put it in the correct spot. And then you can share that with your family so that they can hear your sentences. So on the next page, using adverbs in comparison, okay? Most adverbs form the comparative and superlative degrees by using more and most, okay? So the positive is just that first one, is positive, okay? So painfully, cheerfully, okay? But the comparative for painfully is more painfully, okay? And the superlative is most painfully. Cheerfully is more painfully for comparative, and the superlative is most cheerfully. A few adverbs form the comparative and superlative degrees by adding ER or EST, okay? So on the board, I have a couple of them. So late, which one does late fall under? Is it the one that has, we would put more and most, or would we put ER and EST? If you're looking at your page, you see the answer. So it is ER, so later, and latest, okay? What about loud? Most of your words that are one syllable get the ER or EST. There's a couple exceptions that have there would be a two-syllable word, but there's not very many. So then you see there low, lower, lowest, close, closer, closest. Okay, a few adverbs are irregular in form, like we have our irregular verb forms, right? So we have some irregular adverb forms. So well is one of those. You don't say well, weller, wellest. People would look at you funny. So you would say well, better, and best, okay? And on here you have much, more, and most, badly, worse, worst, little, less, least, far, farther, farthest, okay? So there's just some of those words that just are a little odd, irregular in form, so we need to change them to make them comparative and superlative, okay? Use the comparative degree when only two things are being compared, remember? Okay, so comparative is two things. Positive is just you know, I was out late. Okay, so that's just your normal, but that's positive. Comparative would be I was out later than usual or than normal. Okay, and then the superlative, I was out the latest of all my roommates. Okay, and so that would be your superlative. So that's using the superlative is when you're using three, comparing three or more, okay? So looking at think A, we'll do number 1 together, and then I'll explain right B for you to do on your page per. All right, number 1, Mike was able to run blank than Jaden. Okay, so the word in the parentheses is far, so we need to see what's being compared and so which one we would use. So what's being compared? Mike and Jaden, so 2, right? So we need the comparative, right? Which is what? We have far, the comparative, go up to the list and look at far, go over to comparative, farther, very good. So farther should be in this blank. Mike was able to run farther than Jaden, okay? So that's what you're gonna be doing with this. If all of these are fairly simple. And then with write B on notebook paper, write sentences using the following adverbs. So the first sentence that you write is a comparative of much. So look up much, find which one is the comparative. And then 2 is the comparative of well. Okay, so do the same thing. They're all up in there, up at the top. So use those lists to help you with these. So that's 2 separate sentences. Don't try to combine them into one sentence. So keep that in mind. So you're going to finish page 237 and 238. And tomorrow I will check think A on 237 before we get started on the next lesson. So, all right, have a good day.